Yes, we want to greet you all. Moses Mugisha is my name, seated right here with Gabriel Stephen.
That's right.
One of the very few international guests we've had. He's from Nigeria. The last time we hosted you, someone commented that we've at least seen one Nigerian who has changed the narrative. What the narrative is, someone out there watching us knows. Yes, this time around, we've taken it up to Skien. I live in Oslo, and Skien is also one of the cities in Eastern Norway. So we are delighted to be hosted by Gabriel, Stephen, and Eileen, the wife, in their beautiful home. And we are to take a talk about a very central but sensitive topic, that is inclusion of the immigrants in their new societies. It's a topic that would be obvious to talk about, but surprisingly, it is dodged by some people. But we are glad that we have a very outspoken gentleman, very knowledgeable, and fears no threats.
Well, I don't know about that.
Yeah, people say it. Yeah. Yes. Today is Sunday 16th. We've also added it to so many days. We've chosen to serve you 24 hours. Today we've chosen to use this 1 hour to make an impact. We hope we shall have made an impact by the end of this session. We've made some changes in the settings of our gadgets. We kindly request for feedback on how you hear the sound output there. Just drop a comment in case you don't hear us well. Then we shall make improvements as we go on. Skien is a city known for so much. There is a lot of history. I will ask him to shed a bit of light on what seems so catchy to a Ugandan living in Norway, to an immigrant living in Norway, for them to know. But before we go that further, I would love to ask Gabriel Stephen to say hello to our viewers.
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Gabriel Stephen, and I live in Skien, originally Nigerian, who has had the privilege to wander a little bit around the world and have some close experiences with cultures and people. And one thing that makes me really excited about life is learning about people and just finding new things about cultures and dreaming about a better future for everyone. I think that's all we should dream about, that everyone that's on this journey called life experience success, experience growth and development. So that's what I'm all about. And a little bit about myself. Married to Aileen, and together we have 2 children, and we live in Skien, and we are active in our city, and I used to be a minister as well, so that has something in many ways impacted my life and how I live my life. So yes, that's what you need to know right now about me, I think.
Yes, thank you so much. That is Gabriel Stephen.
That's right.
A very outspoken gentleman. I remember last time when I asked you a question about why Nigerians.
Yeah.
Because then it was a talk about general immigrants, but we took it more specifically to ask why Nigerians invest so much back home than they actually do in the countries where they live. Well, I remember what you said. Maybe you could just say, what about that?
Well, I just said that, it's if they have a feeling of inadequacy, people want to go back home to Nigeria or to wherever to display that they are better than the people who never left, building massive houses, buying huge cars, and thinking mostly about themselves. And I think that in itself shows that we have inferiority complex as a people, not just Nigerians, but Africans in general, where you use your success to want to impose or oppress upon others who have not had the same or similar privileges. I think we should stop with that. We should stop doing that. It does not in any way reflect our values as Africans, and in many ways, it increases that inferiority complex that we have as a people. What we need are people that would create a culture of saying, when I succeed, we all succeed. Mm. And it's all about my success should not translate to only personal enjoyment, or as we say in Nigeria, soft life instead of hard life. It should always be, how can I help others also, or how can I uplift other people? Because if you uplift other people, you don't need to build a beautiful house with a large fence because you're afraid that your neighbor will come and rob you, because they will have the same resources to buy the same phones that you have or drive the same cars. And in a way, it allows us to to actually experience what it means to be human.
Wow.
So,
you're not worried that fellow Nigerians will perceive you as being radical, pretend in this case?
Someone needs to be radical. We have been living as slaves in our minds, and we always blame the West, but really, the West doesn't need to do more. Of course, it has its own share in history, but right now we are governing ourselves. We are in charge of our economies. It should reflect, like many Asian countries, the last 40, 50 years. That emancipation that we had always wanted in independence. It should reflect. So if you think I'm radical, I'm really open to a conversation. But I think that we should envision a future where we don't oppress our own, that we rather uplift our own. I think it's really not radical. It's so common that we should all dream about.
Thank you, Gabriel. As you actually share those reflections, I only pictured and copied and pasted and thought about myself as a Ugandan and thought about, okay, how do Ugandans do it? I realized we don't do it any different.
That's right.
So most probably it's something that roots directly from Africa, and given the setting of our societies, that is about to prove a point, show that I can dominate, and maybe other people out there could have vivid reasons as to why they do that. But anyway, we hold that for now. I've gathered a few facts about Shein as a city.
Yes.
Guide me if in case I'm wrong somewhere. But to you living in Norway, as you probably had a chance to be taken through the introduction program, where we learn a lot about Norway, the history, the great people in Norway. Shein has a bit of history where Henrik Ibsen,
that's right,
one of the greatest writers.
Yes.
They are regarded as big four.
Yes, one of the big fours in Norway. Yes, yeah. You can say something about it. I could say something about it. But we in Shein, we're very proud of Henrik Ibsen. He was born here. He grew up here, and a lot of his plays have roots in the social reality or his upbringing here in Shein. And one of the things I mentioned when we conversing is his critique to the religious and political establishment that is visible and evident in his writings, that has given us much of that humanistic, that liberal understanding that we have today, and religious freedom in the Norwegian context in Northern Europe is very different than most places around the world. However, his work reflects how Shein as a city has contributed to all of Norway in conversations about religious liberty. And I have written something about that in my master's thesis, actually, and I've published an article, so you can Google me and find that article. You'll be really informed.
Yes, thank you so much. Yes, that's about, Norway and the history. Probably someone would contrast or contradict the facts. Yeah, facts
yes.
can vary from...
I want someone to contradict that, so welcome.
Yes, but today I want to sail through a series of opinions and facts about immigrants. But one fact I've come to gather here in Shein, I hope I'm speaking within range, but there is a Congolese who was born and raised in Shein,
that's right,
currently living in Bergen. It's called Patrick Kitaramo. Something amazing I've gathered about him, that he has invented
smart
benches.
That's right.
Smart benches. These have a section where someone can charge the phone. They have free Wi-Fi.
Yes.
But also something I've also realized, according to Gabriel, is these benches are more in Bergen.
Yes.
And there is one in Shein.
Yes.
But I've never seen one in Oslo.
Yes.
Something I've drawn from this, that usually our frame of reference as we analyze or reflect, we tend to look at capital cities.
Oslo,
Such an innovation, someone would have expected to have such benches in Oslo.
Yes.
But they are not there. Yeah. So what do I pick from this relate to our level of exposure and walk around, move around,
That's right.
leave your comfort zone,
That's right.
and go venture into the unknown.
That's right.
Sometimes we argue and have reflections based on a small space.
That's right.
So someone be living in Oslo would assume that anything new, such inventions, at least there would be something related to that in Oslo.
Yes.
That it isn't in it.
I'm so thankful that innovation is not limited to a place. Even though place has an important role in innovation. But if you've never been to Bergen, please travel to Bergen. I've not been paid to advertise Bergen, but I was there for the first time about 5 weeks ago, actually, a month and a half ago, and I was really impressed with the city and how it just has this atmosphere conducive to new ideas. So if you've never been to Bergen, go to Bergen. And now, young people with African heritage are are coming about with new inventions that is not only limited to Oslo, but it can be found everywhere. And we need stories like that. So if you know anyone who is making new strides in a new field, who doesn't necessarily live in Oslo, please contact either Moses or myself, because we would love to hear those stories. It will be amazing to be able to tell about those stories, because we need to hear the stories.
Yes, thank you for putting that across. For you who has just joined in, we are in Skien, one of the cities in Eastern Norway. We are together with Gabriel Stephen in Nigeria.
That's right.
Who has chosen to change the narrative.
Yeah,
there is a lot of stereotype in so many ways, but when it comes to Nigerians, there is what the world knows about them, true or false.
Yeah.
That's a discussion for another day.
Yes.
Today I want to talk about immigrants' inclusion in the societies where they live. Just to get a little more specific.
Yes.
You and I are fathers.
That's right.
I'm a father who was a child with typically Ugandan.
That's right.
Yours is of Nigerian
and a European of Norwegian and Danish origins. That's right.
Yes. Okay. Speaking about inclusion, there is a concern about the identity crisis, where our children get entangled in failing to have an answer to the question, "Where are you from?"
Yeah.
If, for example, your son Nathaniel. If Nathaniel is asked where he is from, where do you think he responds? What do you think he responds?
Well, as we tried it today, we had a little test run without informing him about anything. He was asked, and he just said, "I'm European and I'm Nigerian, I'm African," and he emphasized different elements to highlight why the different identity sources are important to him. He says, "Well, I'm outgoing, I'm social." Means that's the African side of me. And I'm European as well, because I have family here. I think the most important thing for us is to understand that identity is not static. It's dynamic. And it's not only, and I have to say also, identity is a field that we need more research in, because there is more. That's what we call intersectionality in social sciences. It has so many layers. So identity needs more research, and it needs more interrogation, more questioning. But especially when it pertains our community, we have a tendency to hold on to where we come from when we're here. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I'm a Nigerian. I'm so proud of it, and my children know. We listen to Burna Boy and Davido and Two-Face and all those musicians, Wizkid. However, there's also the reality of socialization. Our kids are growing here. So many of them were born here, meaning that their socialization, that which makes them who they are, how they speak, how they act, is formed as well by society outside of the home. And meaning that they also will have traits and attributes of what we'll consider ethnic Norwegians, ethnic Norwegian, but there's nothing wrong with that, per se. There shouldn't be anything wrong with that. I mean, if our children don't have characteristics of Norwegian culture in the way they act, we should ask ourselves a question, what is really going on here? So I think that it's very important that we allow the conversations regarding identity to remain dynamic rather than static, because we don't confine our kids to one category. Or why should they be just Nigerian or Ugandan, not Norwegian? I see opportunities rather than challenges that comes from it.
Yeah, thank you so much. You sound like you love your children to live open-mindedly about culture.
Well, yes, they should at least have some sort of dynamism in their lives. Evidence.
Okay, you and I are African dads.
Yes.
Is culture to the level of your children belonging to your clan that important?
No, I mean, if we wanted our children to be 100% Ugandans or 100% Nigerians, we shouldn't have left Nigeria or Uganda. Because I mean, you're basically putting yourself in a.
No, because it's said that culture defines a huge percentage of someone.
Well, that is true when you're living and being nurtured in the culture. And so if we believe that culture defines much of who a person is, and culture is something that is gained through socialization, then we should not be afraid that our children have Norwegian characteristics and traits because they're living in this culture and being formed by it. But if we intend for our children to be 100% African in the way they think and act, then I would say we need to go back to Africa so that they will be in context where the social mechanisms form and shape them into the people we desire them to be.
Okay, about the language.
Yes.
Yeah, from my perspective, we labor so much for Janelle to speak Uganda. Don't fear. To shoot direct in my eye if you're against that. But what do you think?
Well, I think good for you.
Good for me.
Yeah, good for anyone who wants their children to learn their languages. What we see often is that the children will understand, but they will not speak back. And in families like mine, most especially, they will understand. My children don't speak Hausa or my mom's or my father's language. In fact, I come from a family. My father comes from a different tribe from my mother. So we didn't even speak my parents' languages. We spoke Hausa, which is a regional language. In Nigeria. Now you have to remember that Nigeria has about 529 languages. And we have, many ethnicities, blah, blah, blah. But I don't think that, I think language is one of the markers of identity, but it's not in its entire, the idea of culture is just beyond just the way we speak. It is also the values that we carry, the principles that we live by, our mannerisms, mechanisms that shape beyond just how we speak or what language we speak. It goes into our being, and it is it's a socialization process. So for my children, I want my children to, even if they don't speak Hausa or don't end up speaking Pidgin English, which is funny because they sing Pidgin English, but don't necessarily speak Pidgin English. I want them to embody what it means to be African. So what does it mean to be African? I think many in today's society, relationality, hospitality, communal thinking, a communal appreciation of a person. These are principles of values. The Ubuntu. These are principles of values that I want my children to embody. And even if they do not speak the language, it does not make them less African.
Does it worry you that at some point your language will never be embraced by your grandchildren?
Oh, well,
because the fact that your children don't speak it, chances are high that your grandchildren will not.
That's right.
Is that worry?
Well, as long as our children live here, there's a chance of assimilation. As we know, the third generation is the generation that is assimilated. So your children might speak Ugandan language, Luganda, but what about their spouses? You don't have control over that. We don't know who. I always say I don't know who my children are gonna end up with. Japanese. My son comes home with a Japanese girl, or my daughter comes home with a Hispanic. I don't have control over that. But guess what? This is how life is. That's the reality within which we live. Life is dynamic and it moves forward. So we should ask ourselves, what are the most important principles that we want our children and the generations coming to embody?
Yes, thank you so much. Yes, of course, issues to do with immigration and inclusion and which line should dominate, they're always discussable. It is a concern or question about where children should be inclined more. According to Gabriel, yes, children should be open-minded.
Yes,
children should be given a chance to be who they are.
Well, we should not force them into categories. Our jobs are to give them tools to be able to manage this life. And you guys, you know, if you're an adult listening to me, you know that life isn't pain-free. So our jobs as parents is to give our children tools to be able to be successful in this life that is challenging. So let's take away our vision from things that I consider secondary to things that I consider primary. And for me, the success, my children being able to be success in societies that are difficult is of primary importance right now. Like primary importance. And this does not only apply to my children. I want every African or person of African heritage to find success in European or North American, Australian, or Western context entirely. And if you live in Asia, I want you guys to have success because we redefine and rewrite our narrative. Black people are if there was a caste system in this life, Black people are at the bottom. That is why we should focus on the fact that we are at the bottom, but we have a lot to give. This world will not be the same without us. So how can we rewrite our story? How can we focus on the things that are important so that we will uplift our family name, our clan, our nations, our continent, and our kind to a place that we are equal partners with people from everywhere. It doesn't mean that self-love doesn't mean you hate the other person. It just means that you realize that you cannot give love without you being able to love yourself.
Children are often faced with the question of where are you from? Okay, yes, okay, we heard what Nathaniel responded.
Yeah.
But those who are constantly reminded that in as much as you pride in being a Norwegian, a French, or a Spanish, but you're an African, what would be your thoughts on that in line with empowering a fellow parent out there whose kid is a victim of that?
Yeah, well, we need to be proud of where we come from. But it doesn't negate the fact that our children live and exist within a different context. We should encourage our kids to be proud and comfortable in their skin as people of African heritage. So when you are asked, do not shy away to say, well, I have African origins, but I'm also Spanish, Portuguese, Norwegian, or Danish. Because the idea of citizenship in a liberal democratic society is not necessarily tied to kinship from where you come from. There is also that legal aspect, that political aspect. And we fulfill the requirements of being, in my case, being Norwegian. And I love Norway so much, and I want the best for Norwegians and the nation of Norway. But it doesn't negate the fact that I also love Nigeria and Africa, the African continent a lot, that I dream about its success. It should be allowed. There should be room for both. And our children should feel the freedom to see that there's room for both, that they live for the success of the countries within which they live in, but also dream about the success of the countries where their fathers and mothers are from.
Okay, speaking about that, what have you done personally to empower Nathaniel? Or, of course, definitely, let's also to be ready for that.
Well, we talk about the idea of we being Africans is integrated in our very existence. My son sees how I'm proud to be African, even in situations where, for example, at the airport in countries I don't want to mention, where we were stopped, he saw how I held up my pride as an African and as a Black man, and he didn't have to go in at the expense of the other person. And we also talk about it at home. I say a lot of Black parents who have sons, especially because that comes first with our sons, experience that our sons begin to encounter challenges in the society already from ages 7, 8, and 9. So we need to talk about it and openly with such grace and conviction to let them know that who they are, they should not be ashamed of. Who they are, they should be proud of. However, who they are should not, in many ways, take away the fact that they also share space with people from other places in Norway, in Japan, in England, or wherever they live. So we should teach them to be dynamic so that they will succeed wherever they put or they find themselves. So what have I taught my son? I want my son to be dynamic. I want my son to understand that it does not matter what other people say or do about him, but how he responds to it is important, but also how he carries himself as a person of African heritage says a lot to the situation. If he carries himself with grace and elegance, oh goodness. I mean, the story that will be told in 20, 50 years is that African people of African heritage don't back down, and they're not smart, they're intelligent, and how they show their intelligence in such a way that carries strength and portrays grace. Oh goodness. And I mean, this is not only about Africans. I wish all human beings are like that, but specifically because we as Africans, we have a tendency to have this inferiority complex. We need to teach our kids, our children, to be proudful in such a way that also allows for the other person's existence.
Okay, yes. There is this backup, this thin thick layer that we need to offer our children.
Yes.
Yes. About of course, it's a rumor. Some have proven it as a fact.
Yes.
That there is a certain sector, or there are certain sectors of employment that you don't expect immigrants to work.
Yes.
Of course, like you said, we can never control what our children hear or take in outside there.
That's right.
But assuming Nathaniel hears and has come to terms with that,
yes,
how would you empower him to detach himself from that narrative?
Well, my father taught me something when I was a kid. He says, your knees are not given to you to kneel before a man. You kneel before a God who creates everything that we see, the Lord of the earth. So first and foremost, I taught my children to have faith in the transcendent God who is over and above every challenge. But that does not negate the fact that we live in a reality where folks are tribal. And you notice I don't use the word racist, tribal, because every human being is tribal. We want our own kind to succeed. And we want all the goods, the commonwealth, to be kept only for our own kind. We do the same in Africa. You're from this tribe, you don't get access to that. So human beings have a tendency to be tribal. Now, what is the difference between racism and tribalism? I think human beings are, innately tribal, but we also have mechanisms within us that help us expand the definition of who belongs to the tribe. Whereas racism is that intentional act of wanting to hold another person down or make fun of them or make them feel bad about themselves based on their race or ethnicity. So how have I taught my child to exist within this world that has challenges that can hinder him? What I've taught him to pray and rely on a God, but I also taught him to fight in such gracious way to meet the challenges. We are working to give our children the tools that they need to succeed, and the definition of success is not formed by other people, but the definition of success is formed by our understanding of who we are and what God has called us to be. So Nathaniel knows that, and Esther Sophia, I always tell her, I said, I call my son the Duke of my house. I call my daughter, she's my princess. I tell her, I said, she can be the prime minister of Norway if she wanted.
That's very funny.
I tell my son he could be the greatest, whatever he wants, if he want to be president, whatever, they could be that. But the most important thing is they have to learn to be true to themselves and to love themselves. And in meeting with challenges, they have to meet them with their head and shoulders held high. Wow. And you saw it, the way we interact in our house. Because, God gave us our children for a purpose. Is giving us that task to form and prepare them for the life that awaits them. That's what I believe. I give my son reads books. Because by the way, we Africans, let's start reading books. Let's start expanding our horizon. And make sure that our kids read every evening before they go to bed. They read about different things, philosophy, culture, whatever it is. And we do it in such a way that is enjoyable for them because we interact about the content of what they're reading and show interest in it as well. It's not like you have to read. No. What are we reading? Why are we reading about this?
It must be made fun.
It is fun and creative, So, for example, my son has read about Haile Selassie.
Okay.
Yes.
At 10 years?
Yes, yes, at 10 years. He did that when he was 8, 9. He's read about Dr. King. He has asked me questions about why Black people are treated the way they are already at the age of 9. It doesn't mean I'm forcing him to fight my battles, but he's discovering that there is a battle.
And you probably created that atmosphere.
Yeah, because he's seen me being interrogated at the airport several times. He has been interrogated himself at the airport at the age of 6. He was pulled aside for about 45 minutes. So we cannot pretend that it doesn't exist. What we need to do is to give our children the tools to be able to meet these challenges in such gracious and just beautiful way. Because by so doing, we are part of changing the narrative of what it means to be Black. And by the way, you can be proud if you're Black. It doesn't mean that you hate white people.
Gabriel, okay, let me first engage our viewers out there. We are live in Skien, one of the cities in Eastern Norway. We've come to visit a friend, Gabriel, who is a lecturer and a PhD student, has read a lot about theology, and you can see how it reflects in his voice and arguments. He has worked a lot with immigrants and is so focused on empowering immigrants in line with integration. And this also prompts and inspires this topic today, where I want to talk about the role of immigrants in inclusion. Right now, we are sharing on our role or our inclination or place in empowering children in this world, in these countries where there are certain challenges that are just constants. They are likely to face them. They can never outdo or run away from them, but only develop a thick skin and walk around or curb them. Gabriel, as you speak of empowering your children and equipping them to engage and fight the narratives and the illusions that are in there, there are two sayings: being included, yes, in a society and feeling included. Are they indifferent in your perception?
Yes, they are different. So politicians can make rules and regulations for us to be included, but feeling included is a feeling, an experience you foster with encounters.
Can you be literally excluded, but you still feel included?
Yeah. How? You can be part of a system, the structure, so your political system, the healthcare system, the legal system, but you can be socially excluded. So you have your permit, you have right to vote, you have rights to healthcare and education, and you have a job, but socially and culturally you could be excluded. And that's where the feeling of inclusion is fostered in social settings. So, for example, if you went to a football game and all the people from the majority culture did on one side, although you have the right to be there, for your children to be part of the certain sport activity, you are not included socially. And that's why you're sitting far away from other people. So the idea of feeling included is something that we are also responsible for, as well as society is responsible for. We need to figure out arenas that help us foster the feeling of inclusion. And that is necessary. That happens often when we also have political and social capital. So migrants in Norway, I'll say this to you, we have to figure out ways that we can have social, political, economic capital so that we'll be part of the prosperity of Norway. In that way, we will foster a sense of belonging in this country.
Gabriel, feeling included and being included, which one should direct the other? Or which one does an individual have control over?
Well, you have, so being included is society has a role in it. Feeling included, you have a role in it. So feeling included means a type of intentionality of finding arenas that help you foster a sense of belonging. But not only belonging, but also identification with the people. So I give you an example. People ask me, do I thrive in Norway? And I'm very hesitant to answer. But I then say to them, well, you should ask me the question if I thrive in Skien. Because I feel included in Skien. It's a process that has taken a while, but I feel included in Skien. I feel like I am part of creating arenas for people to feel included. And certain people are part of arenas of making me feel included So there's that, synergy going on. But does that happen when I drop out of Cheyenne? The answer is no, because I don't have arenas in places like in Oslo or Tønsberg or in Bergen that I can foster that feeling. So immediately when I come to these places, I feel a sense of exclusion. But you know what? That also applies to Norwegians who have to leave their hometowns and home cities. They also feel a sense of not belonging to another place, to the place where they're going to. It's a natural experience.
Okay, from your experience, you've besides being an immigrant, you have worked so hard with issues to do with inclusion and inspiring immigrants.
Yes.
And I also remember that in 2022, which is last year, you won an award.
That's right.
It's called Mangfold Streets Diversity Award, Prize, implying that your work is beyond your family, even if people out there see it. What do you think we've done well that we need to maintain so far?
So far, well, guys, we've come a long way, everyone. So the fact that we are surviving, we're alive, we're doing well. That's a good start. I just want you to applaud yourself and just say, hey, I'm doing well. I'm still here. I'm doing well. Really applaud yourself to that. And the other thing that I think we're doing well is we're seeing a generation of young people who are saying, oh, no, we want more. We want more than just that permit or the Norwegian citizenship. We also want to participate in the Commonwealth of Norway. We want to, you just mentioned about Patrick Kittilano and his family. They're contributing to Norway. By contributing to Norway, they're also contributing to their countries of origin. So we're seeing a generation that's coming up and saying, we don't just want that education. We want to also create. We want to also be, and Patrick said to me, my company just employed someone on a 100% position. So the feeling of just that joy of knowing that I am part of creating something in Norway. And I am the guy, the company is called Kitos Light from his last name, Kittilano. Think about that. He did not just settle for a government job. He thought, no, I should be part of creating, because this coming generation after them need to see CEOs of men and women of African heritage in both in the private sector, but also in the public sector. And I believe in us. I think that, if we're created in the image of God, we have the intellect, we have the capacity to contribute to every society.
Speaking of what we've contributed, we've done better for now.
Yeah,
that's your take. To many, learning the language, getting a job, and going back to school or going to school, to many, they feel included.
That's right.
Would you feel that those three are enough for someone to feel included?
No, you could. You're included in this 5 categories of inclusion, right? You have the legal and political, you have the social, cultural, and then you have the religious inclusion, rather socioeconomic. So, but many of us are included. If you have a permit in Norway, or you have a legal reason to stay, you are included in the structures and the systems of Norway. If you have access to what do you call it, fast leg, your doctor, you're included. If you can vote locally or you can vote nationally, you're included in that level. But socially, there are still challenges. And I think everyone that is listening to me knows this. Socially, there are challenges, but what do we see? There's a tendency that everyone remains with people who look like themselves. The Asians with themselves, the Africans with themselves, the Europeans with themselves. And that does not foster a sense of oneness within us. It almost says we share space, but we don't want to be involved in each other's lives. Well, we go to school together. We go to our jobs together. We have the same jobs. So how can we move that? Second, I think, how can we move that into a place where we would feel at ease living in the same neighborhood and our children playing together? That's the vision. The vision is that we can pursue a common good with everyone. It's the concept of socialism, that the art of good life for everyone. That's the vision for us. That's the vision for me. That we will work so that our children and ourselves will feel socially and culturally included. And being included also comes with the responsibility of being ready to contribute in at those levels. Yes.
Yes. Thank you so much to you watching us. Gabriel Stephen is our guest today. We're talking about a topic that is a bit uncomfortable to many, though many others are yearning to hear more of others' reflections about it. We earlier mentioned that we've changed our setting of the gadgets today. Please constantly, you watching us, we request that you drop a message in case you lose track of our voices. Yeah, thank you. Also appreciate you all who are watching us, and requesting you to share out this link to those you feel that need this discussion. We know that every passing day there is something awaiting us to learn.
That's right.
But we barely know unless we open ears to it.
Right.
I talk about inclusion and our role and obligation.
Sure.
Yes, you broken down the different categories of being included.
Yes.
Those areas where you feel that we haven't done enough to be included, because what you've highlighted is the structure of systematic inclusion.
That's right.
Where you can only put in 20% and the 80% is done for you by the system.
Yes.
So what more should we do to really feel included?
Yes.
Maybe before you answer, just to a viewer out there, as we started, I hinted on an invention by Congolese Patrick Catalano. Yes. And I was surprised that Gabriel told me about induction benches.
Yes.
And I've never seen any of these in Oslo.
Yes.
And I Googled, and there isn't any.
Yes.
But it wouldn't be, I wouldn't have known this if I hadn't come to share.
That's right.
So what does this tell me? That I leave that illusionary comfort zone.
Yes.
Maybe that could also be a factor that deters our inclusion. Back to the question, that what can we do to break this barrier?
Well, we have to, I mean, the feeling of being included also comes with a responsibility. That was what I said. There's also the need of fostering environments or arenas in which people meet and become better acquainted with one another. So if you only gather in African gatherings, if all your parties only look like African, then you're not included. Now, is there a place for Africans to gather? Yes. But if that's the only thing that we do, then we're not fostering places of inclusion. Remember that our children go to schools with Norwegian kids and kids from all other ethnicity. They go to their working place where we work with people from different ethnicities. So in somewhat, it is important in order for us to expand our understanding of who belongs to our tribe, to take responsibility to foster arenas where we meet, in spite of our differences and disagreement, that we meet and actually foster the sense of belonging with one another. So how do I do that? So yesterday, 2 days ago, 3 days ago was my birthday, right? So my Congolese friend, Yanni, came and went for a walk together. I got a dose of Africa, got a chance to dream and laugh and almost cry about the state of our African continent and our African people. The day after, my Norwegian friend, who's married to a Mexican lady, came over and we had an evening together. Today, I have a Ugandan in my house. All right. My house, I want it to be a place of fostering understanding and connectivity and belonging. This is what, I mean, the only way it can happen is through relationships.
Yes, sure.
We have to build relationships. So not everybody's going to welcome you into their house. That's okay. But go with the people that want to welcome you in their house. And you'll find that your understanding of who belongs to my tribe expands a little bit. I have a neighbor, shout out to my neighbor, Christian Busk, who has made me feel at home in our neighborhood, by just simply caring for me. and opening up his own space so that I can feel like I belong. That's how we foster belonging. That's how we grow our sense of belonging or being included in a place.
Yeah, I love it when you emphasize that your home should be a center of activity.
That's right.
Yeah, we often times crack jokes about us Ugandans, but there is, I don't know if it also happens with Nigerians, but there are people who tend to generalize and say Ugandans do this, yes. Ugandans are this, Ugandans are that. But I've personally realized that as I go to several parties, the more I go to several parties, the more I realize that I don't actually know how many Ugandans live in Rwanda. You understand? So I realized that we often use a wrong frame to generalize or speak about Ugandans.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. So in so doing, we narrow our networks. So if we do this
yes.
with our fellow countrymen,
yeah.
so it's just a clear indication that we haven't opened up enough
yes.
to invite more other nationals.
Yes.
So I love it when you emphasize that your home should be a center of activity.
Yes, that's right. And by the way, Ugandans, a few years ago, the Ugandan National Gathering in Oslo, I was there and I was invited to say something. And I remember I started the speech by saying, tonight we are all Ugandans. Because there were people from Eritrea, there were people from other parts of Africa who had come to visit and celebrate with Ugandans. And for that moment, we were all Ugandans.
Exactly.
We were celebrating Ugandans. So can Ugandans also be for a moment in just, in a year, be Nigerians or be Egyptians or South Africans, that we celebrate one another. And the only way we can embody that, stepping in the shoe of the other person, is by opening up our space and bringing those people in and learning what it means to be hospitable. There's a philosophy behind it. Of course, we have Ubuntu, but also Emmanuel Levinas, the known philosopher of Lithuanian, French, and Jewish background, talks about the idea of self and the other. And the only way the self can bring the other in is by understanding itself. Saying, okay, I'm comfortable, but I can only fully understand myself by meeting the other person.
Exactly.
The other person becomes like a mirror into my life. And I realized that although I love Afrobeats, and Burna Boy is perhaps, in my book, one of the greatest African musicians, that, amapiano music is as fun to listen to. And there's what's this guy named from Uganda, who we've listened to some of his songs at home. I cannot think of his name right now, but I'll play his song later for you. That there is good music around the continent, and I just need to go on my Spotify or my Apple Music and just type Ugandan music or South African music, and I'll realize that maybe I might not fully appreciate it in that moment, but it will grow on me that I will celebrate the continent. And not only that, so that we don't only sound like we are ethnic and tribal, there's also good amongst Europeans. There's good amongst Asians. There's good, it's good in every people. And let's learn to appreciate it and incorporate their good into our lives. Let's learn that.
Thank you so much. Speaking of inclusion, now the section you're taking on is what we have in our control.
Yes.
Because opening up to others is entirely in our control.
That's right.
There is another section of inclusion.
Yes.
Where I've acquired a certain level of education.
Yes.
I've done all within my power to avail myself out there, throw out myself out in the market.
Yes.
But there is a membrane I cannot crack.
That's right.
Okay. So I'll try as much as I can to get in there to be included. But for some reason, I'm excluded.
That's right.
Your thoughts on that? Your piece of encouragement?
Well, I would say to you, don't fight hard, fight smart.
Okay.
So, because we have fought hard, but we're still getting the same result. How do we fight smart? Let's find people and communities and organizations that align with our values, who are interested in fighting these battles with us. By the way, my fellow Africans who have lived in Norway for a long time and think that politics is only for white Norwegians, I just want to say you're wrong. Politics is the act of, negotiating our existence. If you're not present, guess what will happen? When people are negotiating their existence, they will not include your own interests. So, by aligning ourselves, so I'm involved in politics. I'm not going to say what party I am because I don't want you to feel like I'm trying to sell my party. But I'm convinced, and I've convinced, and still working on convincing my party that the success of Norway is directly proportional to the success of immigrants in Norway. The only way that will happen and be achieved is when migrants are also sitting around the table of negotiation to negotiate their existence, to talk about how they can contribute and also how they can benefit from the system. So if you are facing difficulty, or even if you're not facing difficulty, I know someone that is facing difficulties in finding the jobs that works with the education and the competency they have. Let's align ourselves with people with the power system that we know is interested in helping us negotiate our existence. Let's not. One of the things that migrants have done, in my opinion, in Norway is having the idea that one or two political parties are fighting for their rights. No, they're going to get your votes, but forget it.
I've had a little.
Yes, but in order to keep them accountable, look around, shop around, and make sure that the party you're voting for, or has you as in their interest on their party program, and that's how we make changes at a structural level. We can fight hard by doing all that we need to do and speaking about it, but if no one is listening to us, then no changes is going to happen. But if we align ourselves with people who are already interested in fighting our battles, who do this not as a way of getting our votes, but because it's a conviction of theirs, that we're on our way to changing things and making history.
Thank you so much. There is so much to push our minds to think about when it comes to these barriers.
Yes.
Where we've done all we feel is in our power.
Yes.
And the rest is left to nature.
Yes.
And unfortunately, nature is not always on our side.
No.
In our opinions. But I love it that you're pushing, letting us push smarter, not harder.
Yes, smarter.
Yes, Jorin, thank you for this comment here, emphasizing how we Ugandans are so locked in opening our houses or spaces to non-Ugandans. We earlier indicated that we are not so sure if the sound quality coming out there is what we need. Kindly drop a comment if you feel it's okay or it needs improvement. Gabriel Stephen, a Nigerian who may have cracked jokes about that he has changed the narrative from a Nigerian known in some kind of setting to a Nigerian who is a PhD student, a lecturer, a community work, and has actually won an award in immigrant-related work.
Yes.
Today, we are dissecting this topic about inclusion, our role, our input, and the like. As we wind up, yes, Gabriel, I guess someone watching you may not be so convinced that it is just all about working smart, push, place yourself. Let's bring a case in picture. Yeah. We've had immigrants who have changed their names. Here in Norway, we've had the Peter Olsen.
Yes.
The documents, CV, and the rhythm and all that reflect a Norwegian. Appearing at the interview, it's a Congolese, a Ugandan.
Yes.
Some have succeeded on that, others have failed.
Yes.
What's your take on that? An immigrant who feels that you have to camouflage to find your way into this.
Yes, you have to remember that the work system is in such a way built for natives here. For an employer, it might seem, emphasis on might, seem that it is safest to employ someone who looks like him or her. Okay. Because there is so much money involved. And so why take the risk of getting someone whom you're not sure about their work ethic? Now, that is the part that politicians and people in power will need to debate And when they're debating these issues, we need to be present. We need to be part of negotiating our existence and our success. On the other hand, what we can do is to change the narrative, because there is a narrative that migrants don't want to work, but they want quick success. I don't believe it is the case. I believe some like easy money, but that also includes Norwegians. There are some Norwegians, ethnic Norwegians, that just want to sit at home and get easy money. But let us change the narrative. Let's be part of rewriting a new story. And for those of us that are privileged and are in places of position, let's give our best. Because, I mean, all eyes are on us. We're under the microscope. We're being scrutinized. Let us tell a story that there are many like us who are much more capable than us, but have not been given the opportunity. But at the same time, let's make work not a matter of privilege, a privilege given based on, but a matter that is, resolved based, not based on ethnicity, but rather based on the competency and the contributions that the persons involved have to offer. So this is a multifaceted issue, people. We cannot resolve all of it in just sitting down and talking like this. But let's make groups. Let's continue this conversation. Let's ask questions like, how can we change the narrative? In what ways can we work smarter? How can Africans challenge the status quo and the perceptions of what it means to be African in relation to jobs and innovation? Let's encourage our children, the young generation that is coming up now, to not live within the categories that society puts to them, but to work hard. Let's give them tools to work hard to achieve new, they reach new heights, new heights in society, that, in such a way that they push our minds to reconceptualize what it means to be African. My biggest dream in life for all Africans is to not focus on the small things, on what names their children have. And of course, they are of importance, secondary, but in my opinion, they are of secondary importance. Let's not focus on whether they're speaking our languages or not. Yes, that is important. But let's focus on the fact that there's never been a time like this, that we need to rise above expectation, above what's the standards that have been put to us, and achieve the highest achievements in all fields and all disciplines, so that when we think, that's the only way we would disassociate the concept of Blackness with failure and realign it with success. We need to do, the idea of Blackness is the idea, if you guys haven't read about this, it's challenging that the notion that whiteness or Eurocentrism is the notion of excellence.
Yeah.
Well,
we've grown up with that in mind.
We've grown up with, we are all formed by that.
So many sayings related to elevating the European.
Yeah, exactly. I remember when I went back home in 2008, they said, "Oh, he smells like a white person," and that is supposed to be positive. No, folks like Jared Sexton is telling us or Reggie Williams, or one of my professors, is saying that the concept of Blackness doesn't have to be antithesis to success. It can actually align to success. Let us be that generation that elevates what it means to be Black, and to the level that when people think about it, they're associated with success. That's the way we move forward. We don't only move forward for ourselves. We don't need success to be how much money I have in the bank account, how many cars I drive, how big my house is. But we could think about success as a Nigerian saying, it takes a village to raise a child. Let us, the African village, let's raise our children, let's raise ourselves in such a way that the only expectation we have for ourselves is excellence in what we do. Achievement in what we do.
Thank you so much, Gabriel. As we spare time to talk about issues, to some people, it's more like the story of the sower in the Bible.
That's right.
Some seeds are cast on the rock, others will fall in the bushes, and others will fall on fertile soil. We hope that the time we spend here does not go futile, that someone picks a word or two, because there are issues that may seem to be individual, but in the actual sense they are communal. So issues to do with inclusion, immigrant issues, there is so much you would love to extract from the whole, but it all comes back that to the fact that there will always be our problems, and our, as you've highlighted before, our or us can always be an abstract term.
Yes.
Who are us, who are our. So, but the very last one.
Yes.
The saying that goes that a mango does not fall far from the tree.
Yes.
As you probably know, many immigrants are doing jobs which are actually contrary to their dreams. And many are working just to earn, but the passion bit is not anywhere close. Take a case of Moses Mugisha, who probably does a job that he probably also feels that it's at the bottom of the employment ladder. But he dreams of inspiring his daughter to get on top of the employment ladder. But the daughter sees Moses doing a certain line of work. As the saying goes, of course, in most cases, you'd expect the daughter to follow that line. If it's basically seeing what the dad does or the mom does. How would you encourage an immigrant to help go against this saying and break that membrane?
Let's start by saying that we have to challenge our anthropological views. What you do is not who you are necessarily. It could be correlations, clearly, yes. But who we are transcends what we do. And sometimes what we do comes from who we are. So if you are a street cleaner, if you value excellence, you will do it excellently. If you're a doctor, if you value excellence, you will do it excellently. So we should interrogate our understanding of what it means to be a human being and how that relates to how we live as human beings. It's very important. So we Africans need to understand that what we do does not necessarily say everything about who we are. So we should ask ourselves, who are we? Who am I? Who is Moses as a father, as as a friend? So that's the things. That's what models life for our children. My son was just sharing about how he viewed me. He didn't mention what I did for a living. He talked about how I often would stop and talk to people and show that every human being is important because they are image bearers of God. So if you are struggling because you're a first generation migrant, working odd jobs, don't lose the vision and dream of a life better than this. But most importantly, model virtues and principles to our children, the coming generation, that will put them in a position of success, not only monetary success, but life in general. We need to define what success is. And please do not define success based on the dollars or crowns that you have or whatever currency is it that you have in your account, but on the fact that you are part of uplifting people and giving them a chance to actually thrive at life. Our children are looking at us. They're looking at us.
Yes, I love that reflection. You see, there are so many you've earlier told about your dad, his line of work, how he inspired you a lot.
Yes.
So we are actually inspiration to our children.
That's right.
So I love the way you put it, that we should not look at what we do, who we are. Yeah, because that is a very good challenge. I've interacted with a couple of immigrants, and some have let it flow.
Yes.
By nature.
Yes.
Others are trying, taking baby steps. Others are there, but maybe to that person out there who's still taking baby steps, I hope you pick a word or two from this talk. We want to thank you all, our dear viewers who spare time to watch our shows, to watch these conversations. They are intended to making a difference, but we cannot dictate what kind of difference they make in your life. You make a choice. Today we've had Gabriel Stephen, a Nigerian friend, community leader, and a lecturer. Just to point out, a colleague of mine at one of my workplaces, when we posted the program through Immigrant,
Yes.
yeah, she came in my inbox and okay, he was my lecturer at the university lecture. I'm glad that people see and would proudly associate themselves with people they've picked or taken services or knowledge from. Not everyone does that. I want to commend you for your time and zeal and will to make a difference.
Thank you very much.
And to serve. It's your very last remarks as we
Yes. So yeah, I want to pride myself in the fact that I'm not any different from anybody, and hopefully my success does not define me. I hope that we as a community, that we would see that we play a role in the success of those around us. But that's the first thing I'll say. The second thing, I'd like to say a little shout out to people who are working tirelessly to elevate our situation in the Norwegian society. I want to start with my good friend, Doug Ingebrigtsen, who is a former Minister of Development in Norway, now one of the leaders at KrF. He has worked tirelessly on African issues. Another person I want to shout out is my mayor, Hedda Foss-File, the mayor of Skien, who has worked tirelessly on issues of migrants who do not have papers. Thank you, Hedda, for seeing our plight, for seeing how migrants who who desire to contribute to Norway are hindered by systems and structures. So thank you for the effort, and we hope that we can continue to collaborate. I also like to thank the likes of Marijan and Emilia, people in Høyre, so Hedda is in Arbeiderpartiet, and Emilia Schaffer also from Skien, and Mahmoud Farahman, that is pushing the conversations and saying we should talk more about issues related to inclusion and integration. Let's keep talking about this. Let's keep getting into these uncomfortable conversations, and let's keep, as Africans in diaspora, let's keep dreaming about a better life, a better future for ourselves and for our children, and let's work hard towards it.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's Gabriel Stephen. We are delighted to be here in Skien. Skien is 2.5 hours from Oslo, where we live, the Oslo area. Today, of course, courtesy of Euroforum, we've chosen to take a trip here. Tomorrow, we are likely, depending on the weather, we are likely to stream an event that will take place here in Skien, and him and the wife are very central in that. An indication that as you push for your kids,
yes,
you mind so much about others and how the rest. So you called it the common good?
The common good,
yes.
That's right.
So I appreciate you for that, and invite you out there watching us to share this video. I will make it very clear. Share after watching it. You know, it is very trend on social media.
That's right.
Right. So share after watching it, because then you'll even have an inspiration to add to someone who receives it, and it will be also evident and a justification that you picked something out of it.
That's right.
It's been a talk about inclusion with Gabriel Stephen, where we've juggled through a couple of aspects. We call this episode 2. We posted you one before. It was still about inclusion. So hopefully we shall have episode 3, 4, and 5, because this is a very broad topic.
Yes.
We hope that his major emphasis about what should be important to our children should reflect something to you when you watch this video after, or you who has been live on this show. If I may just pick a few aspects of what he has underlined. He has been categorically clear on how we should empower our children when it comes to disturbing questions of where are you from? According to him, that children should be groomed with a ground of letting them to be free to give reason and give answers to some questions, not based on their Ugandan or Nigerian in them, but it should be based on where they feel a sense of pride, a sense of living, or a sense of belonging, that they should be comfortable enough to say, I'm from Nigeria, depending on how they feel, or I'm from Norway, depending on how they feel, but not to be tuned to saying that I'm from Uganda, even when nothing about them reflects the Ugandan in them. He has also shared an insight of what Moses should do if he feels locked out in the Norwegian society, even when he has worked tooth and nail to break through the barriers of employment. He suggests that you should focus on who you are, not what you're doing. The case in picture, Moses is doing a job which is identified to be below or lowest on the employment ladder. According to Gabriel Stephen, focus more on who you are, that what you do does not define Moses or you watching me. So there are, of course, so much. Those were just a few insights. But of course, we also started with sharing the beauty or the history of Skien as one of the cities in Eastern Norway, where Henrik Ibsen, one of the 4 greatest writers in Norway, was born and raised. And yes, there is also a history about him that his son was one of the prime ministers of Norway, who had a very central role in dissolving the union of Norway with Sweden. That was in 1905.
Yes, right.
He died in 1906, and we feel that these aspects about the countries we live in should be central in our child upbringing. Because if you don't love where you live, you definitely have no reason to be proud.
That's right.
To pass on something.
That's right. That's right.
So we shall hold it here for now, and thank you and appreciate you for always tuning in on Euroforum. Next weekend, we shall have Jorin Nasali living in Sweden. She'll be hosting a show about, social aspects, and they'll have insights about still the prevailing wave of DNA in Uganda, where we feel there are aspects to discuss about that. And on 30th, we shall be again hosting Dr. Geoffrey Lutaya, living in London, where we'll come with another episode about, last time it was about anxiety. This time it will be slightly to do with anxiety, but another section of health, where we need to focus so much on the issues affecting immigrants. This month, it is more about us, not implying to say that them are not part of us, but we feel that we should empower the immigrant community to have a ground to be of value and resourceful in the countries or societies where we live. We sign out for now. Gabriel Stephen, thank you so much.
Thanks for inviting me. Appreciate it.
Yes, and I'm also glad to say that we're leaving here to go and enjoy a very good meal.
That's right.
Prepared by his wife, Ellen. I came along with Janelle, my daughter, who some people call my handbag. She's always around helping Dad to fix things.
That's right.
Thank you so much. We sign off for now.
Yes.